First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Lyndon Ramius. I am the city auditor with the City of Virginia Beach. I'm going to say a few opening remarks. I'll introduce the team, and then we'll have a very brief Q&A session, and then we will end after that. Some of the team members may be staying around after, and if you want to ask them any individual questions that they're able to answer, you'll have that ability to do that. So last Wednesday, July 17th, we had a similar press conference announcing the selection of the firm Hilliard Heights. I explained the methodology and the rationale as to why we selected them. As I mentioned, there was three individuals, including myself, who independently selected the firm because of their experience, their expertise, and when we introduce them, you will see that. The bid was, and the entire contract was posted to our website at vbgov.com/cityauditor. I know we've had many in the media as well as in the public download the entire contract and the proposal. So you've seen the details and the step-by-step approach they plan to take. This Friday, July 26th, the remaining 14 bids will be posted at the same site, vbgov.com/cityauditor. So from a transparency standpoint, you will have the firm that was selected as well as the proposals from the other 14 firms, and anybody can do their own comparison, okay? We announced that last week, and less than 72 hours later, we have the firm is here today. So as mentioned in step one, phase one of their project, today we had a kickoff meeting. So they have certainly hit the ground running. They put a 12-week timeline, and they've assured us they're going to do everything in their power to adhere to that 12-week timeline. So what I'm going to do now is introduce Arnett Heinz, the CEO and founder of Hilliard Heights. He has a long history. The firm has a long history of doing this type of work. They're going to get into it. But I just wanted to point out that Arnett is a former Secret Service agent. He strategic leadership qualifications led to his appointment as a member of the Senior Executive Service and his selection as the special agent in charge of the Secret Service Chicago field office. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Heinz to introduce his team as well as himself.
Thank you very much, Lyndon. Joining me today, I'd like to introduce the team members that are with me here. We have Deborah Kirby. Deborah is our Chief Legal Officer and Senior Vice President in our operations section. And Deborah will be our team's engagement leader here in Virginia Beach. Matt Doherty joins us as well. Matt is our Senior Vice President in charge of our threat and violence risk management practice. Matt has a tremendous career in understanding individuals that lead down a path to violence, having spent majority of his early career in public service with the Secret Service with me. Dr. Mark Brenzinger is our team's clinical and forensic psychologist. And in the area of assessing an individual's degree of potential violence, the insights, observations, and professional skill set of a clinical psychologist are really valuable in the work that we do. And then finally joining us is Ken Boucher. And Ken is our team's Chief Operations Officer. Ken retired after a distinguished career as a colonel in the Illinois State Police, overseeing many investigations throughout the state. And Ken is here to ensure executive leadership as often as needed with our team and to make sure that our team is pulling all of the resources and assets that we need to get the work done. You know, I'd like to go back to July 2nd, when the City Council heard the voice of the citizens of Virginia Beach. They heard loud and clear that they wanted an independent investigation and review. They not only heard the community, but they heard the victims' families, and they heard the employees of Virginia Beach. So with that, at hearing that loud and clear, they passed a resolution that is very clear and very specific. They wanted to have an independent review to ensure transparency, public trust, and confidence. And at the end of the day, the goal of this outcome of the review is to help the community understand, to help learn, prepare, and prevent. We need to help the community understand what it is that, why it took place, and what the community can do to grow and build and create a greater resiliency in the future here. One of the outcomes that we seek to pursue in this work is to be able to identify and recommend strategies, tactics, and countermeasures that will prevent further acts of violence. And let there be no mistake, the tragedy of May 31st was a targeted act of violence, was an act of targeted violence. And one of the things that most of us in our careers, since many of us have spent a very distinguished long career in public service ourselves, before entering into the corporate world where we established our firm 15 years ago. So for well over 40 years of combined public service and corporate experience now, we have worked hard to understand what drives an individual to violence, to an act of violence. And we understand that process. There are behaviors that are exhibited when an individual is heading towards an act of violence. And in an ideal world, you hope to identify it, assess, and manage it. So as we initiate our work here, we will be looking for those opportunities to learn. I will tell you that in our proposal, we outlined 3 phases. Phase 1 was listening and learning, and we thought that would take about 2 weeks. We've already started that. Over the weekend, we provided the city auditor with a very comprehensive list of items that we would need to help kickstart our investigation. In fact, we've already started our outreach to various family members of the victims, and we have done already interviews and meetings and sessions with some family members, and we have many more scheduled in the days ahead here. It's really important that we hear the families, that we understand the issues that are concerning to them, and to factor that into the work that we're going to be doing for the community. The next phase of our work, this phase 2, begins an investigation and assessment process. We've anticipated that will take upwards to 8 weeks. You know, putting a specific time frame for this type of work is very difficult. As our team steps into the work, we have really good sense of what we'll encounter and what we'll uncover in regards to the level of effort needed. But as we do so, we might find that there's much more interviews to take place as we get into this. So our goal of 12 weeks is realistic. We can do it in 12 weeks, and that's what we're going to be focused on. But there is a lot of work ahead of us. And then finally, in the last phases, we'll finalize the report. And one of the things that I can assure the community, as we've started our work today, I've had a chance to meet with various organizational leaders within government, because we need to be able to have access into various components of their supervision. And I will tell you, I heard time and again from every leader that I met with the importance of transparency, trust, that they wanted to make sure that this investigation and assessment was taken forth in a truly independent fashion. So if there's concerns out there, we hear them, but I want to assure you that every step so far, and it's been a short journey with a day or two here, but we've heard from all of your city leaders that that has been a #1 goal of theirs. They want to ensure the public that there's an independent review that's taking place. And our team feels confident that we're going to be able to do that. We know this is an ambitious schedule, but it needs to be ambitious because the community, the victims' families, and the employees of Virginia Beach need answers, and that's what we want to deliver for you. I will share with you that later on this evening, we'll be issuing a press release announcing a couple of listening sessions that we'd like to schedule. So far we have 2 community listening sessions that we'd like to schedule. The first being July 29th, and the second is August 8th. We're working with the city auditor's office now to identify the appropriate locations. We'll have the dates and the times and locations of those later this evening, hopefully. The next listening sessions, we have an employee listening session that we'd like to schedule here at the Municipal Center, which will be in Building 19, most likely around 5 p.m. On July 30th. And then we're going to be scheduling a second listening session because we want to give every employee the opportunity to make one or the other sessions. Lyndon, I think at this point, this is the points that I wanted to cover, and if you would like to open it up for questions, and we can move forward with that.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions? Just want to state your name so they know who you are.
I'm Mrs. Rana Marsh, and I just wanted to know how, as an engaged citizen, I could follow along. Is there going to be a website, or are you going to be giving press release postings? How will we know? This is a wonderful kickoff start to learn who you all are and what you're going to do, and a great presentation, Mr. Heinz. But I just would, how do we follow along?
Yes, I fully can appreciate that perspective and concern and desire that you have to follow along. And our team has talked very extensively about that. With a 12-week schedule, our experience says we have to be careful about what we as a team release during the investigative process. It's really counter to any comprehensive investigation to be releasing facts along the way. So what I would ask the community and the families and the employees to work with us on is that we need every bit of the 12 weeks. We do intend to hold periodic briefings. My initial thought is that I would like to be here every 3 to 4 weeks to provide some level of insight into the progress our team is making. I think we can do so without revealing any specific issues of the investigation. But our intent is to keep you in the community informed on a timely basis. So if you will work with us, we're going to try to keep it at a 3 to 4 week cycle over the 12 weeks. But I do want to make sure we have expectations set that the investigation will not be revealing facts and who told us what on a certain day at any point in time. So,
Did you address the email and the 1-800 number?
So in support of that, with the press release that we'll issue this afternoon, we've already established a toll-free number at our office. That number is 877-208-5650. Repeating, 877-208-5650. That toll-free number is operating now. If it's not answered live, there'll be a recording that identifies this as our number for the Virginia Beach Investigation and Assessment Team. Please leave your name, the date and time you called, and someone will return your call shortly thereafter. It could be, if it's received late at night, it may be the next morning by the time we return your call. But our goal is to be able to receive all the information, insight, or point of view that a community member has. The other thing I will offer up, we have an email established at virginiabeach@hillardheinz.com. Again, that's virginiabeach@hillardheinz.com. And we have established a presence here in the municipal buildings. We have an office location that when we schedule appointments, we'll be asking individuals to come there at that time. Next. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Virginia Beach. My name is Clarence Neal with United Defense Contracting. I actually sent you an email, Mr. Arnett.
Thank you, Clarence.
When you got the contract. I just want to let you know that we have a team of investigators here in Virginia. This is our backyard. We've got our heart in this thing. This is our families, our neighbors that was involved in this. And if you guys need any assistance whatsoever, please don't hesitate to give us a call. I'll make sure you get our business cards before we leave.
Clarence, thank you so much for that generous offer. I will tell you that we very much appreciate that outreach and offer of support. One of the things that we've determined and learned over the years is that independence could be shaded by using, local team members and assets to conduct such a high-profile and sensitive and concerning matter. So we will keep that in mind, but our team is strong enough and broad enough to be able to address all the elements that we have here today. So thank you for that.
Andrew Jackson, I'm chair of the African American Leadership Forum, Virginia Beach. First thing I notice is no minorities.
Yes, sir. Our minority staff is represented. And we do have a minority up here for number one.
Okay, let me just rephrase it. No persons of color. And you do have to question some of those persons of color, and you will have some resistance in terms of answering, because there is a feeling right now and before, and probably will be after, of retribution. That feeling's out there and it's being discussed. So, I mean, you need to know that. That's just what it is.
Yes, sir. May I address that point? On page 27 of our proposal, if you will look, you will see the first African-American member that supports our team, Marcia Thompson. She's a distinguished lawyer and vice president in our firm, and she's really capable and will bring great service to the community with her work. And then on page 28, you'll see Michael Dearden. Michael was the number 2 at the Houston Police Department as the deputy chief of that department. Michael works with us on a wide range of investigations and assessments around the country. So to that point, we are absolutely sensitive and concerning for that, and I want to let you know that we have addressed that in building our staff members out.
Okay, and you also mentioned, let me just ask this question. One of the things that's my concern is what elements that caused this behavior that still exists, that's live, it's out there. The discontent is not new. It just rose to a level that was not stopped in time. So I would ask, is there going to be some, and not necessarily concerned at this time, but in your evaluation in terms of supervisory abilities? Everybody is not a supervisor, and some people don't. I come out of the military world and the corporate world, where supervisors get trained to supervise people. Everybody's not trained to do that, and that's when things happen.
Yep. Andrew, thank you for that question and perspective. And we absolutely will be looking at those factors in our investigation and assessment. It's critical in understanding the why of an individual's path, what led him or her down to a path of violence. And that is a key focus that Matt and Dr. Mark will be addressing as they initiate the investigation and assessment into what drove this individual to this violent act. So thank you for that.
Any other questions? Yes.
Peter, reporter for the Virginian Pilot. In your firm's history, have you led any similar investigations following mass shootings in the past?
Our firm has been engaged in various shootings and multiple shootings in the corporate environment world. We have several private clients that are of Fortune 500 stature where we have been brought in and investigated. Those are addressed in our proposal. We just don't name them specifically because they are private corporations, but we gave ample examples of that. But I would also take you back that in our history of, to be able to understand an individual's path to violence, it's a very skilled and nuanced skill set. And that is something that Matt and I and other members of our team from the Secret Service, along with Dr. Mark, which we have spent a career learning and understanding and applying that in a practical fashion. So many individuals that go down a path of violence, for targeted violence, we've conducted hundreds, if not thousands, of investigations collectively into that. Yes?
Brett Hall from WAVY TV 10. Can you go through how, it sounds trite to use the word opportunity, but how your firm became aware of this opportunity and when you decided to pursue it?
Yes, sir. Every tragedy that hits our nation, our team keeps wind of the incidents that happen around the country. And this goes back, I think one of the first major tragedies like this was Virginia Tech, when after we started our firm. I think that happened a few years later. And we typically are looking for issues like this because it's an opportunity for us. If we're not working them, we can learn from them. So in particular, I believe my chief operating officer received a phone call indicating that there was an RFP coming out on this, and that's how we were sent the RFP as one of the interested firms. Yes, sir.
I'm a local rabbi, Rabbi Zalman, Temple of Tikva in Virginia Beach. From your experience, you approach this task with a certain general understanding of some of the characteristics of such an event. So you bring something along with you that you have already learned from other similar settings. Each setting is unique, obviously, but you already have something in mind that might assist you in this process, I assume so. And would you say that in your report, will it simply indicate findings, or you're going to go beyond that and kind of put your finger on some serious issues that need to be pursued legally, let's say?
Yes, Rabbi, I'm going to ask Matt Dorr to join me here, but to address the specificity of your question, yes, we will look at the motives that drove this individuals, and there's typically a framework of behavior that we want to try to identify. And through the investigative and assessment process, we can put our finger, as you pointed out, that there may be a motive behind that. So we'll be working hard to do that. And through the investigative process, there's a number of ways that we might uncover that. And it's very difficult to try to get to the motive with the shooter deceased, but we can still gather relevant information. So I'm going to ask Matt to join here and provide a little perspective on that. Matt?
Sure. And it's a great question, and I want to preface this. I don't want to assume anything about this particular case because we frankly just got here and just started our process. But you're exactly right. We're talking about targeted violence, where a known or knowable attacker selects their target in advance of the attack. Different acts of targeted violence, whether it be the school shootings, whether it be assassinations, whether it be workplace violence, in the vast majority of them, rarely did they direct a threat towards the target or law enforcement. In other words, it wasn't preceded by a direct threat. It wasn't announced at a time, but their behavior concerned others. We want to be able to capture if there was any concerns. We found they had a variety of motives in previous mass shootings, and not necessarily their like or dislike for somebody. And again, I'll preface it again, we don't want to assume anything in this case, but the variety of motivations, fame and notoriety, avenging a perceived wrong, bringing a national attention to a perceived problem. Those types of motivations vary for each. So we're going to look at this individual's motivation, intent, and capability of carrying out an attack, and that includes interviews and perhaps with a keen eye on any concerning behaviors that may have arisen. And the whole point of these previous mass shootings was to take those valuable lessons and apply them and leave the community in a safer place. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, we've got time for one more. Anybody want to ask one final question?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Vincent Smith. I'm a city resident and a city employee. Between the team of Hillard Heinz and the city auditor's office, can you tell me specifically who will make the decisions about what information is included and what information is excluded from a version of this report that everybody is assuming will be released to the public, because your proposal stipulates that you will create a separate report segregating confidential employee information and safety-sensitive facility security information from the main report, but it never does say that a version of the report will be released to the public.
Yep.
Let me just speak first. So I'll speak on my part. So I think council made it clear that my role was obviously to get us to this point in regards to the procurement process and selecting the firm. And my role is to be the liaison. They just landed. They don't know who the players are. They don't know building 1 from building 19. So we're working with them from an administrative point for getting office, phones, liaison. The report will be public, as all of our audit reports are, on www.vbgov.com/cityauditor. The report will be public. I'm the liaison, so I will not have any input, nor will management or council, of what goes into the report or what is excluded from the report. So my role is simply from here, as it's been from the beginning, is get to the point, bring the firm in, and serve as a liaison, getting them the necessary documents, in touch with the necessary employees that they need to do their part.
And let me follow back up with that. That was our proposal. And the proposal was prepared off of what was in the resolution and what was in the request for proposal. Traditionally, when we work with corporations on different matters like that, we provide the client the opportunity for that discussion. One of the things that in discussions with the city leadership here, there is a clear and specific request that the final decision of what goes in the reports stops with me. So it doesn't go past me. This team will prepare it, will finalize it. When I sign off on it, the report's done. So it's not going for edits or approval or any other modifications. That's one of the things I want to give the community clarity, that it stops with me. So.
All right, so once again, very impressed. They just literally landed last night. They've hit the ground running, and as Arnett mentioned, they're going to give periodic updates throughout the process. We appreciate your attendance here, those that will be watching at home later. And as I mentioned last week, hopefully this will be the first step towards getting answers and a first step towards healing for our community. Thank you very much for attending.